everyone, I'm MissMarvel, and this is your guide to Feral Druid in the War Within pre-patch. This will be very different from my optimistic and bubbly Dragonflight pre-patch guide that I made 2 years ago. The first thing you're going to notice is that we've had some significant changes. Our energy regeneration has been greatly reduced. The range of all of our abilities has been reduced. Astral Influence doesn't work for us anymore, so you can just talent out of that permanently. Our class tree has been mostly reworked, and our spec tree has also been greatly changed. On the subject of energy, Feral has always had a small income of energy, requiring less time spent pooling and thought going into each spell cast. The exception is Dragonflight, wherein we've had so much energy that it almost doesn't matter. It made spells cast matter much less. We were casting on GCD most of the time, which made the spec feel very different, and many people didn't enjoy that. In my opinion, it felt worse in single target, but better in AoE. Regardless, it's reduced in both, and playstyles will have to adapt. Since Legion, Feral has had increased melee attack range. It was only Feral and Rogue that had this unique benefit. It obviously didn't make us OP, it was just a nice little bonus. In Dragonflight, they gave this bonus range to Retribution Paladins as well after their rework, and that stirred up a lot of complaints and discussion from other melee specs who don't have the bonus range. To address the complaints, they took it away from all of us. You can blame Ret Paladins for this one. Primal Wrath's range was slightly increased to make up for this, but you're going to notice the shorter range on all your other spells almost instantly. Astral Influence does not work for us anymore. It certainly feels bad, but at least it spares you a talent point. On the class tree, things have been moved around and changed. The most notable changes, there's a really cool new talent called Fluid Form. I'm a huge fan of this one. It almost completely eliminates the bad feeling of all the dead GCDs going from bear form to cat form. It was probably intended for Druid of the Claw, which is a hero tree we'll be unlocking when T-Dubs launches, but it has use in pre-patch too. Moonkin form has been removed and is now default for balanced druids only. This means we lose our disengage and our flap slow fall. It's a very painful loss. I personally use all of these in PvE content basically all the time. The center branch starts with a Vortex and Mass Root node and then Soothe, which are required picks in all content now. They lead into Stampeding Roar, but most importantly, they lead into Lykara's Teachings, which is a required damage node. The right branch has a new 2-point talent node called Lore of the Grove that only benefits Balance and Resto Druids. But we still have to pick it because Innervate and Vigil are locked behind it. Innervate being virtually required in Raid, and Vigil being virtually required in Mythic Plus. Slap on Forest Walk, and the Balance and Resto capstones are our most valuable selections. We do now have the option to Path from Rejuve and remove Corruption to get to this point of the tree, but because of the slower energy economy, we need Sunfire in Raid anyway. Over on the spec tree, the first thing you'll notice is that Tear Open Wounds has been removed. The intention here is to make our AoE rotation mirror our single target rotation, maintain a good rip, and a bite in between. Rampant Ferocity is a good talent, but it has several drawbacks. It's got an incredibly small range, especially when compared to Primal Wrath. This short range unfortunately starts from the center of the target, not the edge of the hitbox of the target. This means that biting large targets will often mean bite isn't hitting anything else, and it makes funneling less rewarding, since you're giving up your AoE finisher to instead do a single target bite. I can still see Primal Wrath being the better finisher when targets are not pixel stacked, unless Rampant Ferocity's range is addressed later. Predator has been completely reworked and no longer provides Tiger's Fury resets. This makes Tiger's Fury a cooldown that cannot be extended or refreshed at all. You'll want to be mindful about when you use Tiger's Fury and get out of the habit of using it as things are dying. Your AoE will slow down, but not drastically. Berserk Heart of the Lion, which lowered the cooldown of Berserk based on finishers used, now lowers it to a baseline 2 minutes. This is mostly neutral or even helpful, except in situations like Smolderon, where you could game your tree and playstyle to get Berserk's cooldown so low that you had it for every intermission with 1 minute Convoke. Awakened Smolderon in pre-patch will surely look different, but the rest is mostly unchanged, as we usually hold Berserk to line up with Convoke anyway. There's a new talent called Coiled to Spring. Its intention is to make us use finishers at 5 combo points again. It's bad, don't pick it. Savage Fury is another new talent, which gives you a small amount of haste and energy regen for a duration of 6 seconds. The rest is more or less the same as it was in Dragonflight, minus a couple of changes. In Raid, your trees are going to look something like this. You can move around 3 points on the class tree if you need Innervate. If your raid generally doesn't need Innervate or Forest Walk, which is a reworked, incredibly strong healing talent, you can gain 7 points. For AoE and cleave situations, Nature's Vigil becomes more valuable, and you can swap around talents as you normally would on the Spec tree. There's almost no change there. In Mythic Plus, the class tree becomes a bit more of a problem. You don't really have all the points you need to get everything you'd normally grab. You can't drop Feline Swiftness, which was previously 2 points, to get talents in the middle, like Typhoon, as it's been moved to the upper third of the tree. You have the option to drop Sunfire, as you won't have as much opportunity to use it, though it do some more damage to bosses. But it's pre-patch. Who is pushing anyway? The Spec tree mostly looks the same as in Dragonflight 2, with a few things moved around to make choices made a little different. The choice now isn't Rake versus Bite, since now we always pick Rampant Ferocity. Changes to the rotation. Thankfully, our rotation is mostly unchanged. The biggest difference you should expect is Tiger's Fury. You will not be pre-casting it, as bites don't extend it, and the energy it grants is much more valuable to you. As Tiger's Fury comes close to falling off, you want to do your best to squeeze in a fully buffed Rip with Blood Talons and a Rake with Shadow Meld or Sudden Ambush before you lose the Tiger's Fury buff. Finishers should again be cast at 5 combo points. Yes, 5 combo points, we're back to it, and Rip should last until Tiger's Fury is available again. In Mythic Plus, like I said, the intent is that you use Primal Wrath 1 time and then bite in between with Rampant Ferocity. Keep in mind Rampant Ferocity's ranged though when you do this, as a bite on 1 target is going to be weaker than another Primal Wrath on 5. Convoke the Spirits has an interesting new change that makes it prioritize Bite and Feral Frenzy on your main target, the one you're targeting, and you can play around that too. It's also more important now to hold on to 3 or more combo points at the end of a pack for the start of the next one. And just a quick note on externals, PI is actually stronger for Feral than it was in Dragonflight, with our damage now directly scaling with haste. It gets really hard to be able to pick the new talents that they made for us. Fluid Form in particular, this is my favorite new talent. I think it's one of my favorite talents that they've ever made for us. Oak Skin as well is really cool, and I mean, I can't pick both, certainly. Fluid Form would make the Spec feel so much better, and I just don't know if I can pick it. I do want to make a video going more in depth about the problems with the class tree and the Spec tree before the War Within officially launches, because this is a little rough. If you like Feral Druid content, press the subscribe button. I only release Feral Druid content. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to follow me on Twitch, I'm very active on Twitch, and I have a Twitter as well if you'd like to check me out there. Alright, thank you so much. Goodbye!